This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro, and for the last 30 years I've been providing stock research and consulting to institutional money managers and really just helping with their timing. Usually they'll send over their list of holdings and I help them with entry and exits and talk about the markets and sector action and that type of thing. So what I want to do in today's video is just go over what I'm seeing in the S&P, just give you a little bit of a market update. So let's go ahead and get into the charts. Now I like to use 4 different time frames. I start out with the big picture monthly, work my way down to the weekly chart, which is essentially the main time frame, just so we got a clear understanding. This weekly is kind of like the key time frame, and I use this to help with the weekly and this to help with the weekly. So I've got the look of the daily, I've got the monthly chart, and those are helping in terms of what I'm seeing on the weekly chart. Now I'm looking at price, I'm looking at moving averages, I'm looking at momentum using MACD and ADX, and I'm looking at the volume action in each individual time frame. So if I'm looking at it and just giving you a little background on what I'm trying to do, this is long-term trend here. This is the intermediate term trend here. Okay, short-term trend here and micro trend here. So these trends don't last very long. We only use those for triggers. Okay, now we can use them for triggers on the short-term trend. The short-term trend can be both. It can be used as a trend time frame, and it can also be a trigger for the intermediate term time frame. And then finally, the intermediate term time frame can be a trigger for the monthly, and it can also act as the trend for a trigger on the daily. So you want to use them this way, and this is the whole reason why I have them situated like this, so I can see the 2 time frames that I want to use together. So I'm not typically going to look at a monthly chart and an hourly chart together. So I'm tend to look at it in this direction when I'm going through. All right, so that's the background there. Now, when we look at what's going on in the market, one of the things I wanted to do, and it actually might just take me a second to set this up, but I want you to think in these terms a little bit more. So I'm going to do, I'm going to take off. I don't want you to erase the 40, but sometimes it's really useful to have an understanding of what I'm looking at when I'm looking at this 18 MA. And we'll just do it for the main time frames, because what I want you to think about is we're trading around the trend line. Okay, and so if I were to go over here and pull up a parallel trend line, right, I can click on this and I can connect that high, and then I can come down and connect these lows in a parallel fashion. Okay, so if you look at what I did there, I actually did a poor job of doing that. You get the idea. There it is. Okay, so and that's actually not exact either. So I've connected the highs first, and then I'm creating a parallel line for kind of like the target to the downside. So I've got a channel going downward. And, you know, typically what you would do is you'd have kind of like a mid-band here, a mid-level, somewhere in the middle there. And you'd be, if the trend is down like it is now, you'd be looking to sell rallies at the mid-band. You don't typically get a move all the way up to the upper end of the channel when you're in a downtrend. Just like when you're in an uptrend, you don't typically get a full move to the downside. Just like we were going on the upside, you could do the exact same thing going up. And the other thing you could look at, and in fact, we can do the same thing on the daily chart. So if I go here and I connect this and I do that. Now, if you notice what's happened, I haven't done this perfect, but I'm pretty close. Let's just see if I can get that. That's pretty close. Okay, so I'm now at the low end of the channel on the daily chart, and I'm at the low end of the channel on the weekly chart. Okay, I know that the sentiment, which was -8 last week is now at -13% as of Wednesday, meaning there's 13% more bears than bulls now. So we're getting into a point where, yes, these trends are down. There's no doubt that these trends are down right now, but they're oversold inside this channel. And I think there's even an easier way to look at this. I don't use bands, but I can tell you visually, even when I have the 40 up, I'm looking at it like these are bands. And I'm saying, okay, I've got the mid band, which is the 18, and I've got a lower band, and I've got an upper band. Okay, and when we get to the lower end, we're getting pretty close to the lower end, the lower band. I'm looking for a rally back to the 18. That's typically what I'm doing. Now I'm measuring the momentum of each decline, because if we get a rally and we go to a new low and momentum doesn't confirm, say momentum can only get, ADX can only get to 25, then I'm probably looking for a break of the 18 and a move all the way up to the upper band. Now, like I say, I don't use the bands, I don't put them up there, but I think I want you to, I used to, but I don't, I like to just visualize it, and I like to keep my charts as simple as possible. So when I'm looking at this, I'm saying it looks to me like we're getting down towards the lower band, and we're probably due for a rally towards the mid band. Because of the momentum situation, I wouldn't be looking for a break of the 18 because the momentum is strong. I'd be looking for to sell a rally towards the 18. With that said, I've got the same situation on the daily chart, and yeah, I think there's the potential for a short-term rally, but we're fighting the trend. These are counter trend. Now, I did a video on Tuesday on playing counter trend. I don't really think the spider fits because we don't really have momentum divergence. MACD's hitting a new low with price. We've got ADX hitting a new high. There's a little bit of red DI divergence, but not the type that we talked about before on Tuesday. And ADX is confirming the move. ADX is confirming this move, and MACD is confirming this move here. So I don't have a divergent setup on these time frames to play counter trend, but there's probably stocks out there that you could. As I said on Tuesday, you've got to be very nimble if you want to try and play this. And the other thing that I'll tell you is I still think this is the key. I haven't even been, I left the moving averages on there because it's not really our focus of this video. But the reality is these trends are down, okay? And there's nothing to do until we see real strength coming out of this. If you want to try and play for a counter trend rally, then you have to follow the rules that I set up on Tuesday. But I would just tell you that at this point, the way this thing is trading, you know, that maybe what we ought to look for is some kind of a climax. It's one of the two, climax, or we get a legitimate reversal on the hourly that really has some strength to it. We have not seen that yet. It really is not. The only thing I can say that I could hang my hat on right now is this last leg that has been created here. Well, no, just this last leg on the hourly did not really cause a big reading. We basically went up to 25. So if we turn from here, you could argue that the hourly is setting up for a reversal based on the fact that the ADX is not really confirming this move. So that is one thing that's important, and I would tell you that, you know, we want to draw in the trend line here and look for our 1-2-3 pattern with DI confirmation, I believe. I think that's what you're going to need because you're fighting these trends. You're really, to think that we're going to turn something and make a monster move to the upside when we're fighting all these trends, I just don't think is all that realistic. Now, what we could do is turn up and make this look like it's turning back up and then come back down on these. And this would be like coming up here, coming back down, and then coming back up through the moving average. Then we could do something along those lines. But I think we're jumping the gun to think that we can go straight from here and straight up. Keep your focus on what's important. Right now we have a downtrend that's oversold in 2 time frames. We could get a counter trend rally. Now I do want to bring this up as well. The monthly chart, and let me just bring this up like this. We could do the same thing here and think about this is this is the mid band, and then we'd have a lower band and an upper band. Okay, we're getting close to the lower band. It's probably a little bit further down. I mean, it's probably more like this, and maybe we're up riding the upper band here. So I don't really, I mean, all I'm telling you is we're down in an area where I would be, because this is rising, you still have, you know, you have an oversold condition, and a potential for a rally back up towards the 18-month line. So don't get too bearish right now is my biggest thought. Don't get too bullish either. And when I say that, I'm saying if your time frame is long term, we're not really in a position to buy and put away stocks for a long period. We're just turning the trend to the downside on the weekly. How long is that going to last? I don't know. I mean, you put your trend line in and you wait for it to break. And as long as we're making lower lows and lower highs with momentum confirmation, you just sort of assume that the trend is going to maintain itself to the downside. We can get surprised periodically with a reversal that's really hard, even when the momentum is strong. But in most cases when that happens, you end up going through a sideways phase as opposed to turning on a dime and going straight up. So these are the types of things I think you want to learn and focus on. You can do the channel lines if you want, but I think the 18 is giving you the same feeling. When you get far away from the 18, especially in 2 time frames, you should start to be thinking we're looking for retracement. Now, there's only one other thing I want to mention. I mean, the possibility is that we keep going and we just keep going to the downside, and that would be more like a crash. I mean, if we don't bounce sometime in the next week, get some kind of a rally or something like that, then I would assume that this could get really, really ugly to the downside. And that's why, even though we're oversold on those channel lines and I'm hitting these lows, it's not like I want to buy. I'm waiting for some signs of confirmation because the possibility is out there that this could get really ugly. So keep those things in mind. Be safe with your trading right now, and go ahead and post any questions or comments. Thanks.